Good morning and welcome to Football League World TV. My name is Ned Holmes and I'm joined once again by Marcus Alley on The Debate Show. How are you doing this morning, Marcus?
Very well, thanks, Ned. Great to be on talking League Two. Great to see Richie Wellens back to his best at the start of the season. So, yeah, looking forward to getting into the show.
Yeah, as Marcus hints at there, our focus today is League Two and Leyton Orient. We're looking at whether anyone can stop the O's in League Two this season. Before we get started, though, a reminder, as always, please do give this video a like and a share. Subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube. And, of course, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Are you a fan of Orient, a fan of another League Two club, or just the EFL in general? What have you made of Wellens and his side start to the season? And how do you think they're going to fare as it wears on? Well, Marcus, obviously, Richie Wellens sort of came in midway through last season. Orient was struggling a bit down in 20th. You turned things around and a respectable mid-table finish for them. But it's been a different story this season. Back-to-back Manager of the Month awards for Wellens in League Two. The best start ever to a League Two season for Orient after 10 games. I think that was 27 points. The best home and away record in the division. And, of course, 3 points clear at the top with a game in hand over, I think it's Stevenage in second, 39 points from 16 games. Quite the start to the season for Orient and for Richie Wellens, Marcus.
Absolutely incredible start. I kind of draw similar sort of parallels to Plymouth Argyle in League One this season, a club that many people probably expected to be in and around that playoff chasing pack or playoff picture, but have gone out and proved that they are the team to beat at the start of the season. They did underperform last season, obviously showed the promise to show they could mix it in and around the promotion race under Kenny Jackie at the start. And then, yeah, sort of once Wellens took over, the players were sort of back to those levels that they'd shown earlier on in the season. But yeah, the relentless consistency of this start, I was certainly not expecting. Obviously, League Two is very evenly matched, so it wasn't out of the question to suggest that Orient would be competing for automatic promotion. But to have lost just one of their first 16 games and to win 12 of them has been unbelievable. Particularly that first 10 games as well puts them in such a strong position to really kick on. Yeah, we'll touch on the summer transfer business in a little bit, but obviously it was a sort of quality over quantity approach, which seems to have really been paying dividends for them. So yeah, they could not have hoped for any better. Just a little surprising to see that one defeat came against James Rowberry's Newport County at the time. They could even be unbeaten after, well, over a third of the way through the season now. So yeah, they couldn't have hoped for any better. We saw sort of Richie Wellens storm away with Swindon at times in the 2019-20 season. There could be some comparisons towards that if they do carry on this incredible form.
Yeah, as you say, that start to the season really was what caught the eye. I think there are a couple people thinking perhaps things would. It was one of those runs that couldn't go on forever. I'm not sure anyone could really extend that sort of run across a League Two season, but that dip in form did eventually come. I think the important thing really is they kept it short, and they bounced back now with 3 wins in a row. How does responding to that rough patch, so quickly and so effectively, how much does that tell us about this squad and their promotion credentials?
Well, I think it's a good insight into having some strong leaders in the dressing room and on the training ground, really. There was no cause for panic, but if there wasn't those strong voices in the dressing room, you could potentially see players panicking, thinking that they would throw away what was such an amazing start. But they were able to channel back in, really grinded out some results. 3-2 win against Carlisle United was really impressive. And then a 2-0 win against Gillingham, which wasn't actually as comfortable as the scoreline suggests. And then, yeah, it all came together for a great performance to get the better of Salford at the weekend. So, yeah, I think you point towards the kind of dynamic and good balance that they've got within that squad. Lots of players with different kinds of experience coming together. And, yeah, the likes of Wellens potentially leaning on some of his senior players in and amongst that tough run. It was just 1 defeat and 2 draws, still picking up a couple of points anyway. But, yeah, to get them back and pushing in the right direction has been really impressive. And I think it just points towards one of the stronger units in the division, as you would expect after such an impressive start.
Yeah, I mean, particularly sweet, I'd imagine, that win over Salford for Richie Wellens, given his history with the club. I mean, obviously he's impressed in the past, but there's certainly been the ups and downs to his coaching career. We've spoken a lot about teams, the likes of Ipswich and Plymouth, perhaps in the league above, and how important holding on to their manager is to their promotion hopes. We haven't seen any links yet, sort of to Richie Wellens and a move higher up, but do you foresee any problems there for Orient with potentially interest coming in from clubs higher up the divisions and Wellens' head getting turned?
I think they should just about be okay. I could potentially see Wellens' head being turned if it was a move closer to home. I've heard him talk a lot about how it's been very different living in London compared to what he's been used to previously in his playing career and his managerial career. But where Orient are financially, I think they can probably compete with the bottom half of League One. I also don't really see too many insecure jobs in that kind of region anyway. You could look to MK and Oxford with Carl Robinson and Liam Manning, but those two seem to be slowly retaining some faith and turning those clubs around this season at least. And in the top half, there doesn't seem to be too many unstable jobs. So you would be looking at League One if someone was going to come and poach him. But at the moment, I think Orient are in quite a strong position. Obviously, Wellens' last 3 jobs, potentially, obviously, the way it ended at Swindon, very tricky off the pitch goings on at that time. And then 2 potentially bad fits, really, with Salford, although he did have them sort of pushing towards the playoffs, and then Doncaster Rovers last season. I think the way those tenures ended could cause some kind of hesitance to jump ship. Now Wellens knows he's got a good thing going, he's got all the players buying into his ideas. I think he would be hesitant to leave Orient with the position that they're in, even if it was potentially a more upwardly mobile League One club that would look to bring him in. So I don't think that's potentially a bridge that they will have to cross this season. However, given the way that he's performing in League Two, naturally those rumours will probably come when vacancies do crop up in third tier.
As you say, you would imagine it would have to be a good job and a good fit to tempt Wellens away from Brisbane Road at the moment. Let's move on, Marcus, then to the summer additions. Archibald from Lincoln, Georgiou as a free agent, Hunt from Swindon, Moncourt from Hull all joined permanently, as well as Kelman from QPR, El Mazouni from Ipswich and Wareham from Chelsea on loan. You talked about it being a quality over quantity approach. And when I spoke to Richie Wellens last season, during the latter part of last season, he seemed really happy with the core squad he had available. He was talking a lot about the quality of the group and how impressed he was. And it does seem as though he's just looked to sort of top that up and stick with, and I guess play to the importance of continuity in that. What do you make of the summer transfer window as a whole?
Obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, I'd say it was a very good summer. But I think it's interesting what you say about Wellens talking at the back end of last season, because if you take out that poor middle section that Orient had last season, the start and the end was very promising, with a lot of players showing ability potentially even above the level, or at least promise that they could develop into promotion pushing players in League Two. Theo Archibald really stands out for me in this summer transfer window. Has been a consistent sort of contributor, chipping in with goals and assists so far this season and was last season. I was surprised to see Lincoln let him go, to see him drop to League Two. I thought it was a decent loan spell, and one that he could potentially use as a springboard to be a more regular player in League One this season. So bringing him in on a permanent basis was a real sign of ambition. And then in the loan market, I also think that they've probably been quite shrewd. Charlie Kelman, to me, did not stand out on paper as a decent signing, considering what he offered in loan spells at Gillingham last season. He's already outperformed that, which shows, maybe Wellens' coaching ability. And Idris El Masouni was kind of a different, on the other side of that, player that I thought showed a lot of promise at Ipswich Town last season. Is probably mainly just a victim of the depth of quality that they have in that squad compared to the rest of League One. If it wasn't for that, he would probably be a fringe player, rotation player for Kieran McKenna. So that was an impressive pickup. Ipswich potentially hesitant to loan him out to a direct rival in League One, and that's why Orient were able to pick him up due to their financial capabilities at level and maybe the location. So those three kind of stick out, and then obviously George Moncur, quite a strange name to be seen in League Two at this stage of his career, still only 29, but potentially a project that stands out in terms of prioritising man management. This is a player that, when he's fully fit and firing, should probably still be playing at the top end of League One. Has played in the Championship as a bit part player over the last 2 or 3 seasons. So to see him drop to League Two was a surprise, but definitely a huge asset to the squad if they can get him returning to the levels that we have seen in recent years. So a nice blend of youth and experience. But for me, Archibald was a real shrewd pickup, a player that I could see being crucial to where Orient want to go over the next few seasons.
Yeah, obviously, as you say, a promising summer. Well, a brilliant summer. Reflecting on it now, given that start, and a key part of that start, the defensive record, the best defensive record in the EFL, of course, 9 goals conceded in their 16 League Two games this season. Can you pick out really what the key to that is? Are there any standout players, or do you see it as just a good unit working well together?
It's tricky to pick out individuals. I do think it's more towards the collective. Having one of the best, if not the best, goalkeeper in League Two in Lawrence Vigouroux certainly helps that. Just 9 goals conceded from 16 games is a really outstanding achievement. He's not shy from plucking penalties out of the top corner as well. So if you can get away with incidents like that in matches, it's always going to help. I think the return of Dan Happe he suffered a largely injury hit 2021-22 campaign. He's been a real boost to come into the back line. I think he's just 23, 24 years old around there. So he was a player that was showing great promise in Orient's first few seasons since promotion to the National League. Was kind of derailed a little bit by injury, but seems to be sort of back on the right track this season. I think a player of the experience of Omar Beckles has really helped him get up to speed quite quickly. Obviously, you've often got Darren Pratley sat in front of them in midfield, which I think contributes to limiting the amount of high quality chances that they're giving up, just putting out fires in midfield areas. But I would point towards the goalkeeper as potentially being the reason why their defensive record is so outstanding. I think it would still be one of the best in League Two. They rank 5th for expected goals against, and that's having played 1 game less than some of the teams above them. But I see that metric as a little bit less worth reading into the lower down you go down the EFL pyramid because of the quality of goalkeepers, essentially. So I expect this to be the bedrock for their promotion push for most of the season. I think it is their stronger facet rather than going forward, but I do see it as more of a collective rather than just the individuals. Wellens in particular would be very happy with that partnership of Beckles and Happe because of the lack of the playing time that they'd had together going into the season.
Yeah, so certainly, as you say, their strongest facet at the moment, and perhaps, in comparison going forward, they look a little bit weaker, but still scored plenty of goals. I think it's 26 in those 16 League Two goal games so far. I mean, contributions coming from across the squad, which I think looks really important, but also to have a player like Paul Smith, who's capable of producing sort of moments of magic, really important too.
Absolutely, yeah. They're not too reliant on him, but what a start to the season. It's been already comfortably his best goal scoring season in English football. I think he got 6 in a season in his days with Linfield in Northern Ireland, but now already hits 7 league goals this season. Taking that into account, he's not someone I'd probably expect to go on and hit 20 goals. Has typically been more of a wide player previously in his career, now playing more centrally. But yeah, he has been the focal point of their attack. I would expect a little bit more from the likes of Aaron Drinan and Rule Satiriou as the season goes on, and I think they'll need more from players like that because, as I mentioned, I can't see Smith maybe sustaining his place right at the top of the League Two scoring charts. But no, there's been plenty of positives in attack because, well, sort of losing Harry Smith and then getting him back from Exeter, he was a big player for them last season, particularly in the first half. So to lose that kind of physical presence and to go with a more mobile two of Smith and Drinnan was quite an interesting approach, something we don't see too often in League Two. So no, plenty of optimism and promise in that attacking contingent. As I said, I probably don't expect Smith to carry this on for the whole season, but he can still be a hugely influential player. As we've seen, his dribbling ability is clearly above League Two level, and a player that the Wellens is clearly getting the best out of.
Yeah, certainly a player that perhaps might not, as you say, breach that 20 goal mark, but that there'll be a few more dazzling dribbles and fantastic goals before the season wraps up. Well, we talked a lot, Marcus, about Leyton Orient so far. This is all about whether anyone can stop them, really. And if we look at the other teams in the division, obviously it's Stevenage and Northampton in second and third. What do you make of the two starts of the season those teams have made? They perhaps lost a little bit of a pace on Orient recently, but do you see them as the real clear challengers?
I'd definitely include Stevenage in it. I'm not as hot on Northampton Town. I think Sam Hoskins' incredible form at the start of the season has probably inflated their points tally a little bit compared to some other sides that are less reliant on individuals. I would include Stevenage in that bracket. I think they've just got such a repeatable process under Steve Evans. I can see them staying the course. A lot of their wins have been narrow, but when you look closer into it and the performances, like they have been deserved results, and that they're clearly a side that I think will be staying around, and I can see them continuing to be strong at home for the remainder of the season. Outside the Cobblers, there are a few that I look to who I can see sort of bulldozing their way in. The furthest back in the pack at the moment is Stockport County. I do think they are going to make up for lost time and at least compete for a place in the top 7. Finishing in the top 3 is probably a way off at the moment, considering their slow start to the season, but I think they're definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with come the business end of the campaign. Then a couple of sides that faced off at the weekend, Mansfield Town and Swindon Town. Swindon up to 4th and scoring 5 at Mansfield definitely made people sit up and take note. They're starting to show shades of the side that we saw at times last season, making the playoff semi-finals. And I think having Luke Jeffcott as your number 9 is something of a real luxury in the 4th tier. So I think they're definitely ones to watch to potentially overtake the Cobblers in the coming weeks. And Mansfield under Nigel Clough, you could argue, I think it's potentially a matter of when, not if, he gets them out of League Two. Obviously, he put together such an impressive season last term. We're really strong at home. So I think they're two sides that will also be able to stay the course in terms of pushing for a place in the top 3. But in terms of Stevenage and Northampton, I'm not so sure. I think they can definitely keep the Cobblers at an arm's length unless their performances improve in the next couple of months. So, I'm looking at some sides to come in and force their way into that automatic promotion picture. And maybe a little bit of recency bias creeping in, but I was very, very impressed by the way Swindon looked in their 5-2 win at Mansfield on Saturday.
Yeah, certainly a few teams for Orient to sort of be glancing over the shoulder at then. Obviously a long way to go, Marcus, still in the season. If we shift our focus back to Orient, just before we wrap up, they've obviously been really impressive this season. There's no denying that. We've talked about the strength of that, the strength of that defensive unit, and there are goals coming from across the squad, and just that Richie Wellens looks sort of back to his best as a coach. But is there anything you see, any issues you can sort of see derailing Orient as the season wears on?
I think depth-wise, they may be a little bit light at the back. Most clubs will have a tricky month or so due to injuries over the course of the season. I think if that does happen in their defensive line, then we could see a regression in the amount of goals that they are conceding. So that's one area that I'll be potentially looking to bring in another loanee or some another addition to shore up that area of the pitch. That's my main concern, really. I think the goals will probably dry up at some point. These things come in peaks and troughs. And given they don't have a real proven number 9 in the squad at the moment, that could come to bite them at some stage. But I'm not too concerned about that, given how strong the defence has been. If that does arrive, I can see them still picking up points with regularity and maintaining their strong position in the table, just because of what we've seen from that defensive contingent so far this season. So yeah, if anything was to derail them, I would potentially be thinking that could be a defensive injury crisis rather than anything else. Other than that, I think the squad is very well set up to stay towards the top end for the remainder of the season. I do think Wellens has really sort of the squad are completely buying into his ideas, and I can see him really driving them forward as things get more serious as the season goes on.
Well, finally then, Marcus, before we go, can you see anyone stopping Leyton Orient from securing promotion in League Two this season? Or do you think, obviously with those 3 automatic promotion places being there, the way they've started this season and the way they've recovered from their recent sort of stumble, do you think that they're almost looking too strong?
Yeah, it's a nice buffer to have, isn't it, to 4th place, and already 8 points being that cushion. I think that should be what they are focusing on, rather than the league title, until we get right up until closer to the end of the season. I can see them being stopped. There's plenty of quality sides in League Two this season to close that gap. However, I probably don't think they will, given what we've seen. Just the consistency is hard to argue with. Losing just 1 game from your first 16, that they really are asserting their authority at the summit of the division. And also, should those tricky patches come, which I believe they will, we even saw them with Forest Green last season, nearly throwing away the league title after they'd built a huge league towards the top end. I trust in Richie Wellens with the experience he's got from winning that promotion with Swindon Town, that he's going to be able to navigate them through those difficult patches in the season. So they can be stopped. It's not time to get complacent, but I probably don't believe that they will, because of the cushion that they've built up and the way that they're playing at the moment.
Well, then, as Marcus highlights, certainly plenty to be excited about for Orient fans this season, even if obviously it's not wrapped up yet. Well, that's everything from myself and Marcus and us on Football League World TV today. But there'll be plenty more EFL content throughout the week and throughout November. So please do keep your eyes peeled. That just leaves me to say thank you, Marcus, and thanks everyone for watching.